Guide, we beseech thee, Almighty God, members of this house, that they may wisely deliberate for the good of the country and for the glory of thy holy name. Please join with me as we say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Pray, be seated. This honorable house is now in session. Honorable members, we continue the motion before the House as presented by the Minister for Finance. And the motion we're dealing with at this time that which deals with the estimate of revenue and expenditure. The budget has been presented, and today we begin the debate on the budget. I did advise that we should make sure that we keep in touch with Standing Order 40 as I can prepare you for a long day, because everyone would want to make their contribution to the budget. Honorable members, we're about to begin. I ask if the Leader of the Opposition would like to begin this day. Honorable members, the Leader of Majesty's Opposition is about to begin his debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I rise this morning to make my presentation, it is with thankfulness to the Almighty God who has kept me thus far. I say to him, all praise, all glory, all power to the righteous one. Because I would say, Mr. Speaker, to he that is able to keep me from falling, to he that has kept me from falling, and he that will keep me standing at the end of the day. Again, glory and honor. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank my families and friends, because they are to my bulwark in this time. As one of the President of the United States said, President Roosevelt, it seems like to many of us, 2021, the year 2021 will be a year that lives in infamy for a lot of us, because so many of us have been touched in some way or another, especially during this year. I also want to be grateful and thankful to my opposition senators who have stood with me through thick and thin. And so we also have to lean on one another for strength. And Mr. Speaker, as I stand here too, let me be grateful to my preparatory team for the work that was put into my preparation for this year's budget presentation. And last but not least, Mr. Speaker, let me extend my deepest appreciation to the people of St. George Northeast, who it is because of them and the trust and the confidence in me that I am standing here today. And I will always be grateful for that. Mr. Speaker, Budget Statement 2022, as was delivered by the Minister of Finance. In my estimation, I have listened to him over the years, maybe from since 1995, when we sat together in the Senate. And probably this is one of his best delivery. And I must say that. So over almost 26 years, he has come a long way. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding, I went into the dictionary, and much more so the Oxford Dictionary, and I looked at a budget. 3 definitions were given there, Mr. Speaker. First, a plan for spending money wisely, Mr. Speaker. A plan for spending money wisely. Second, the amount of money set aside for a purpose, a particular purpose. And I like the third one. It says, the third one says, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, statements of plans for government spending and taxes. Mr. Speaker, what we are talking about in a budget presentation is the proper allocation of the country's finances. That is what it is about, the proper allocation of the country's finances. Where does the budget arrive from, Mr. Speaker? Really? It is from historical data and the performance of the economy over a period of time. That's where it comes from. But Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note the second part, the performance of the economy over a period of time. Mr. Speaker, from time to time we come to this house and papers are laid on the table. We see papers from all statutory bodies and so forth. Well, I should not say from all. But what we never see, and I remember in 2013 when we came in and I had consultations, we were in the Public Accounts Committee, 2008 to 2013 passed, and when I asked for the government financial statement, the audited financial statement, they had to go back to 2005 and come forward. So we were about 5, 10, about 9 years behind. Mr. Speaker, I asked the question, when was the last time was the audited financial statement of the activity of government placed in this house? When was the last time? That probably, Mr. Speaker, or that is, Mr. Speaker, the main piece of document the Public Accounts Committee should have to look at. I am not worried about NAWASA and NIS and so forth. No, I am not, because it seems like the books are in order. But where is this government? Audited financial statement over the years. You're producing budget from year to year, and you cannot produce this one. Mr. Speaker, remember in the 1990s, the early 1990s, an Englishman came down, Mr. Norman Straker, and his business was to get the government finances in order, because the institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union, and other entities would not give Grenada's monies under this condition if the financial statements of the government is not properly audited and laid on the table. Mr. Speaker, it has not been produced. When you look at the presentation of the budget, Mr. Speaker, I see no innovation. I see no initiative. Why do I say that, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, you know, the first time I entered this house, well, on the other side, was in 1995. So I have a little bit of history. And Mr. Speaker, what I see today is a presentation of a document that is cut and paste. Cut and paste. The numbers change a little bit to fit inflation, but it is the same template from since 1995. If we have to go somewhere in this country, we have to innovate. Mr. Speaker, you know, this way that we constructed the budget, really and truly, is what was given to us by the colonial masters. Two things: we tax and spend. Tax and spend. Tax and spend. Mr. Speaker, in order for this country to move from where it is, we must bring some innovation into the budget. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the presentation of the budget, you will see a lot of nicety in there, a lot of goods. I mean, anybody could put anything in the budget. But like I always said, Mr. Speaker, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You could say it is the best thing in the world, you know. It could smell a particular way, but it doesn't have to taste that way. And Mr. Speaker, this is what I see here in this budget. Mr. Speaker, I would call it a Santa Claus budget that is highly deceptive in its presentation as it is. Mr. Speaker, the financial affairs of this government here must be put in order. Mr. Speaker, I cannot, for the life of me, after reflecting on this budget and looking at the finances of government, I do not support the passage of this budget in this House. Mr. Speaker, as customary, I will make a few remarks. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The proof of the budget, Mr. Speaker, is in its implementation. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, we had a problem with I'm good now? Thank you. Mr. Speaker, let me just read a little bit here from this budget document here. And as I said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. On page 5, that is V, Roman numerals. It says here, current transfers are forecast to decrease by 17%. Reflecting a partial withdrawal of the COVID-19 economic stimulus implemented during the second quarter of 2020. Then that was 14. And 6.
We tend to be having a problem.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is a first in this House. During the Leader of the Opposition presentation, it never happened before. Right again. I think, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, under 16 of this document here, it says capital expenditure for 2021 is estimated to be $261.7 million, 3% less than 2020. Outturns, less than 2020 outturns, and a 14.4% below the targeted amount. This is primarily due to slow rollout of implementation of some major projects. Implementation. Mr. Speaker, I turn the next page. Under 18, it says here, grants spent were lower than anticipated, partly because of implementation bottlenecks of grant finance projects and slower than expected grant receipts. Total spending from grant sources is estimated at $232.6 million for 2020.
Leader of the Opposition, we are having a little difficulty with the whole microphone and speaker issue. So we are having all of the phones coming on the CD. Given wants to do a little troubleshooting and get this right. I hate to have to stop you in full flight, but I think we all understand the uncertainties that can occur because of technology. So we'll just take a few minutes, but you would not have lost any time. It's only a trend of thought, so probably can get it back.
Avoid the most common causes of spreading the flu. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, dispose of it straight away, and either wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
Make sure you have it. Clean water in a container and a hurricane plan. Hear me no man. Hurricane damage is beyond your control. Surviving the aftermath is up to you. Have a hurricane plan. It can save your life and your family too. Prepare for hurricane. Your hair prepare for hurricane.
Men are not made to physically abuse women.
It's something that has become a serious problem in our country, or has been a serious problem in our country. Abuse could present itself in many forms. It could be physical, verbal or emotional, and the most egregious, sexual.
It's not a good look. It's not right in no form. So domestic violence against women should stop. How can you hit a woman, beat a woman?
Every form of abuse has an effect on the individual abuse, on their family members, on children, even the community as a whole.
I'm a man. I came out of a woman. I love my mother. I love my nieces. So to the children, if you're being abused, talk to somebody that you trust and get your message to the person.
This has been a message from the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment in collaboration with its social partners. If you or anyone you know is in need of help, please feel free to contact us at 440-2269. And remember, a life free from violence is possible.
After the unlikely event of a natural disaster, NOASA has some priority areas. Of course, our first priority will be to the hospital because we need to ensure that the patients there are provided with water. Then we would focus on our health facilities. So if there are health centers, we need to ensure that they are functioning with water. Then after, we focus on the home for the aged. Thereafter, what is important is to ensure that the hurricane shelters are provided with a supply. So if their supply via the tanks would have been used up, we would ensure that our water tankers are available to replenish those supply. A priority also for NOASA is the RGPF through their offices. So we would ensure that all police stations, their headquarters, their bases, etc., have adequate storage. And then after, of course, we'll focus on the general population. So our priority area for NOASA, first of all, is our hospital and our health facilities. We also focus on the home for the aged, the police. We focus on emergency shelters, schools, and then after the general population.
and girls, today we are going to do some words that you find in nature. Our first word is thunder. We're going to use the index finger, point to your ear, and then you shake it like this. Look at it again, index finger, point to the air, and then you shake. Thunder. One more time. Thunder. Very good. Now wind. Open palms facing each other, and we move them from side to side. Wind. Just think about how the wind is blowing. Wind. Very good. Our next word, flood. Now in a flood, the water rises. So flood. Again. Flood. Flood. Very good. Now rain. Rain. Wonderful. Let's look at it again. Rain. Rain. Good. Now hurricane. I want you to put your hands like this. Then we're going to turn it one on top of the other, and we wiggle it. Hurricane. Look at it again. Put them one on top of the other, and wiggle, 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 wiggle. Hurricane. Hurricane. Very good. Now volcano. We are going to use the letter V, and let's shape it into a volcano. The letter V, and then you show the lava coming out. So the V, and up. Volcano. Look at it again. Volcano. Very good. So our last word, lightning. Lightning. Do you see the lightning in the sky? Lightning. 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 Wonderful. Now let us review. Thunder. Do you remember the sign for thunder? Thunder. Wind. Wind. Flood.
Testing.
Flood. Rain. Rain. Now hurricane. Hurricane. Volcano.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, again let me apologize for that break. I hope you would not lose any of your time allotted to you, and I pray that you have not lost your train of thought, but you were on implementation. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when a stride is broken, it's broken. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of meat in here for us to chew on. Mr. Speaker, I spoke to the budget about implementation. And we have seen, indeed, 2021 budget, the shortfall in terms of implementing major projects in Grenada. If you have an operation and you cannot implement it, Mr. Speaker, it means therefore that you have failed in many respects. Because it means therefore the government is not working. Because what should have been done to stir economic activities in the country was not done. Mr. Speaker, but even before I go on, I remember last year when the budget was presented, I spoke about a COVID 2021 budget in terms of a stimulus package. And let me, at this point in time, at least thank the government for coming back to Parliament and passing the stimulus package in 2021, something that I had called for, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I hasten to say, when I look at this year's budget document, there is $9.2 million allocated for COVID-related business for 2022. Mr. Speaker, sad to say that I do not believe that COVID is done with us as yet. God forbid. We saw just in the past few days, they're talking about a new variant of the COVID, Omicron, that is so unpredictable that I think it has left a lot of countries and people frightened. So let us not rest and think that we are out of the woods. It means, Mr. Speaker, that we may have to return again to some form of stimulus for COVID. But, Mr. Speaker, as I make my presentation, and I hope the powers that be are listening, I will also make some recommendations, because it is all good. We all don't have all information at our disposal. Some people would love to think that they have knowledge of everything. But, Mr. Speaker, you know, we went back and we did a fact check of the budget presentation. You know, everything these days you can fact check it because the information are out there. And you put it through the lie detector test and it came back deceptive. Mr. Speaker, I am therefore calling on government for a full
I wish we would not have any further breaks. Technology is not very fair to you. Leader of the opposition, would you like to continue, please?
Mr. Speaker, how many more times? To me, this is not making any sense at all. As a matter of fact, it is embarrassing. Plain and simple, this here is not my presentation, but it is almost to say Grenada to the world. And this is what we have. Look, Mr. Speaker, all the mics are on again. Okay.
Honorable members, we are having a bit of difficulties with the system. So I think we're trying to rush it, and I hope it will be rushed and rushed properly. But in the meantime, we would pause for an adjournment until such time as I think I've given the indication that we are back on. Because I hate to have to be doing that to you, Honorable Leader of the Opposition. What is that by doing? Is the internet and the technology giving us some problem? So we will adjourn for a few minutes. I wish it is the shortest time. Let us get the system up and running.
If you spend 2 hours in a room where someone's smoking, you'll inhale the equivalent of 4 cigarettes. My dad shared an office with a chain smoker, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for more than 10 years. Not surprisingly, he died of lung cancer. I've had enough of secondhand smoke. Have you?
Avoid the most common causes of spreading the flu. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, dispose of it straight away, and either wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.